Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ask Ken Show. So excited to have all of you here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Iona. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me once again.
Yay! This is the Ask Ken Show. So excited to
Hmm.
have you all, both you and anyone who's watching. Let me just see here. I'm just going to go live on some other platforms. Um, how you been since we saw each other last?
I have been doing great, actually. I've been doing
Awesome.
great.
Well,
Yeah, doing really good. Um,
good, good.
yeah, trying to trying to connect with my new guides that I learned when we were doing the Ascension Healing group last couple weeks ago. Highly
Yeah.
recommend anybody if you want to take Ascension group every second Wednesday of the month, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. Second Wednesday in North American time zones,
Yes.
or and also the second Thursdays if you're in Europe or Asia, depending on what part of the world you're in. Actually, that brings me to a really good point. Is we can start off with that question: is how many spirit guides do most people have, and do they ever change? Why don't we start with that? That's a great question, I think, to start with the
Sure,
Ask Ken
that's a
Show.
great
How's that
question.
sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good to
So
me.
what Iona was talking about is that she was talking about she has a new spirit guide. And so the cool thing about that is that most people have somewhere between 3 to 5 spirit guides. And let me just change this here. Give me a second. Aha, that's what it's like for. Yes, that's good. Okay, so most people have somewhere between 3 to 5 spirit guides during any one season of their life. Sometimes 6, sometimes 2, but usually it's 3 to 5 is what my experience has been. And the thing is that a lot of people sometimes they think like, oh, more is better. They're like, I have 28 spirit guides. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You might be working with other different kinds of beings and stuff like that. That's why your numbers, you might be thinking you work with other ones, and that's okay. That's not necessarily spirit guides. So what's really important when it comes to channeling and it comes to spirituality is that we know exactly who we're talking about when we talk about different so there's 5 different kinds of souls in the astral realm. Uh,
Hmm.
there's there's random souls, there's loved one souls, there's soul family members, and there's ascended masters, and there's your spirit guides. So it's very, very, very important that when it comes to channeling, that we actually are very precise on who we're talking about and what we're channeling, because we want to always know where we're getting the source of the information from, not just they are telling me this, or they are telling me that, or spirit is telling me this, or spirit is telling me that, or source, or whatever it is. No, like, who are you actually channeling? Get to know very precisely who you're channeling. So when I talk about spirit guides, for example, like with Iona, I'm very precise on who are your spirit guides. Your spirit guides are members of your soul family. When you die and you cross over, you'll go back to the astral realm to be with your soul family. But while you're here, certain members of your soul family will help and assist you, and these are your spirit guides. And your spirit guides help in different areas of your life in different ways, different capacities, and they are people like you and I in non-physical form. And my experience has been that most times people's spirit guides are people you've known from past lifetimes, not from this lifetime, but it could be someone you knew from this lifetime, but not necessarily. Um, and so the question is do our spirit guides ever change? So you can have a spirit guide that's with you for your entire lifetime, or you can have spirit guides that come and go during different seasons of your life, different chapters of your life. And depending on those different seasons or different chapters of your life, you might get a spirit guide who steps back, and then another one who steps forward. And then that new spirit guide helps you with the next phase of your evolution. So Iona, before we just got on air, we were just talking about how she has a new spirit guide, which is so exciting and great. And Iona, what do we do when we get a new spirit guide? We what?
We have fun. Oh,
Celebrate. Yeah, that's right. We
celebrate.
celebrate and have
Yes.
fun. Yeah, we do. Why do we do this though? Why? Because we are entering a new chapter of our life, a new phase of our life. So this is
Yep.
exciting. We want to celebrate this and get excited about it. Why? Because we want to find out, like, what's this new chapter of my life? What's this new season of my life? How can I maximize this? How can I make the most out of this? How can I work with my spirit guide to help, make the most of this next lifetime, this next season of my life? And also, how is this spirit guide here to help me? And what am I meant to do with this spirit guide to, like, get to know who they are, what their personality traits are, what their characteristics are, how they're different than maybe your other spirit guides, and figure out, like, why are they coming in this time in your life. It's not by accident. It's not just, it's for a purpose, for a reason. So get to know what that reason is and get excited about it. So that's super cool. So good question to start off the Ask Ken show
Yeah.
today.
Very good question. So we'll go on to the next one. So what are different kinds of channeling?
Yes, good question. So there's basically a bunch of different kinds. There's energy channeling, like Reiki or bioenergy or pranic healing, and like there's a whole bunch. There's a gazillion, basically unlimited kind. There's lots, even from Europe. I've come across, some of my clients have taken some different kinds of energy healing, energy channeling. So basically what that means is that you're channeling energy through you. You're being used as a conduit to send energy to a plant, to another person for healing, maybe for yourself. That's all energy channeling, where you're channeling energy through you. I do teach that in later trainings after starting in level 3 and then 4, and then in my mastermind classes. The two different main kinds of channeling, though, when it comes to spirits, is there's trance channeling, and trance channeling is where your soul actually leaves your body, and then another soul comes in, and then they channel through you. You don't remember anything that's going on. And then there's another one that I call, this is the name that I've given it. It's called conscious channeling. That's where you're fully aware. That's what I'm doing right now. I know who I'm channeling with my spirit guides, or when I'm channeling someone else's spirit guides, I can just do it like it's an every normal day part of my life. I'm not for or against one or the other. Like, if people want to try trance channeling, that's great. That's fine. My experience has been that a lot of people, they try these, don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to handle or sustain that. And so what happens is, after the trance channeling session is done, they're like totally like worn out and tired, and they're maybe have medical or physical repercussions because of it. I've heard of some people who get like bleeding noses or massive headaches, or they have to go to sleep for like 3 days. It's not that it's bad. It's just that there's some people who their infrastructure is not adequate enough to be able to handle that kind of channeling, the trance channeling kind of state. Whereas other people that I know, like the Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks, she's been doing it for a long time and decades, and she's fine. Her body can handle it. Bashir, and there's a bunch of other famous channelers that do trance channeling. So, I mean, if you want to try it, go for it. I'm not for it or against it. What I teach instead is what's called conscious channeling. And the reason why I teach this is because I want to normalize channeling. I want to normalize spirituality. I want to make it like a normal everyday part of your life. You don't have to go into some weird like seance thing. Back when I was working corporate in Canada, I'd work for the government, and I would be in the middle of a board meeting, and their spirit guides would be telling me, they'd be like, Ken, share this idea. I'm like, what? Really? They're like, yeah, share this idea. So I'd put up my hand and go, I have an idea. And they'd all stop and look at me. And then I would share that idea, and they'd go, wow, Ken, that's a brilliant idea. Like, where did that come from? I'm like, oh, it just kind of came to me, wink, wink, right? Meanwhile, I'm like channeling my spirit guides, channeling their spirit guides, all live right in the board meeting. And I don't have to go into some weird trance thing. I don't have to do any smudging. I don't have to do any like light candles or do any kind of chanting or anything like that. No, I'm channeling all the time. So I have a concept that it's called ABC. Always be channeling. So if you're taking notes, or if you want to take notes and you want to write this down. Always be channeling. So sometimes I've shared this with people who don't really know quite what they're talking about, or are very fear-based, and they're like, oh, that's really irresponsible to tell people to always be channeling. Like, that's so bad and wrong. Like, what if you bring in things? It's like, no. Let me give some context here. So first of all, like I said earlier, you always know the source of who you're channeling. So you're only
Yep.
channeling things
Yep.
of the light. Please, everybody, only channel things of the light, hence the term light workers. Work in the light. Light workers, be a light worker. Do not dabble in the dark stuff. So always know who you're channeling. That's the most important. And then the second thing is that you when you know who you're channeling, then you can make sure that you're only working in the light, and then you can decide when you want to channel, when you don't want to channel. So if you don't want to channel, don't be channeling. But if you want to, you can. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
ABC, always be channeling, is like, think of it like a satellite dish. So you have the satellite dish on. Remember those old satellite dishes that you'd put on the side of your house or whatever?
Mhm.
So information isn't necessarily always coming in, but when it does come in, then you're ready for it. You're ready to
Right.
receive it. But it doesn't mean it's always coming in. So like, people ask me like, don't you get overwhelmed? Aren't you bombarded by too much information? Like, there's always these things coming. And it's like, no, 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 no. I'm aware of them. I know of them, but I'm not always necessarily receiving information from them. And if there's ever times that I don't want to, I just say, no, stop. I don't want to. It's okay. Right. But sometimes they'll come in, and or the information will come in, but then my receiver's on and open and available, and then I could decide what to do with it or not do with it. I can decide what to do with it. Like, if it's a random soul or something else, I'd be like, yeah, it's okay, thank you very much, no thanks. But if it's like my spirit guide, for example, or a loved one or a soul family member, then I'd be like, oh, okay, tell me more, give me more information, I want to know more, things like that.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by always be channeling, is you want to get into a state where you can always receive information. And the reason why I call it conscious channeling is because I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. I'm living my everyday life, raising my daughter. She's older now, but when I was first starting out in this, living my life, paying my bills, I'd be hanging out with friends. I'd still be channeling. I'd be going for a walk. I'd still be channeling. I'd be driving. I'd be channeling. I'd be at the grocery store. I'd be channeling. Like, you can always be channeling, but you're conscious
Mhm.
of it. You can stop and start it. And it's different than trance channeling, which, again, there's nothing wrong with trance channeling. It's okay. It's fine if you want to try it. But I teach conscious channeling instead because I feel it's more empowering and easier to integrate into your life. And what I want to do, one of my missions, is to normalize channeling and normalize it, because as a species, I feel that this is a really important step for us as a species, as our evolution continues, that we can just always be channeling and make it part of our everyday life in all areas of our life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I yeah, I really enjoy, like, since I've started and I started taking your courses and stuff, and learning the conscious channeling and stuff, and yeah, like, it's great because you can do it anytime. You don't have to like stop and like close your eyes and really think about it, and like, you know, yeah, it's just, you know what, it's coming through, it's right there,
Yeah, and
comes
that's
in.
a really good point, is what I suggest to my students. So if you're watching this and you're just beginning, a couple recommendations is, it might take a bit of time when like for me, when I first started, I would like sit somewhere quiet. I would close my eyes. I would invite my spirit guides to come in. I would try practicing channeling them. But after a while, you
Mhm.
want to get to a point where you can do it in your everyday regular life. So
Yeah.
at the beginning, that's good. And with some formal training, and not so much in level one, but starting more so in near the ending of level two, and then level three, level four, is when I start to get people to do what I call fast channeling, where they're channeling with their eyes open, and then they make it a normal part of their life. But at the beginning, if you're just starting and you're wanting to play and explore this, then yeah, feel free to just kind of like play with this. Let it, um, allow yourself to get to know your spirit guides, do it in a nice, quiet environment. But then eventually you want to be able to try different environments, try it with your eyes open, try it in a noisy environment like a grocery store, or maybe you're having a family dinner or something like that. Try it in that situation, that family environment.
Right. Cool. So I see we have somebody who is on Facebook, Philippa, and they say, "Hi Ken, what is your view on channeled light language tattoos? Unless transmuted, could they potentially lock someone in a certain energy signature when they were maybe meant to continue evolving further beyond that activation down the track?"
Ooh, that's a really great question. Yes.
Very good question.
This has been, yeah, very good question. So hi, Philippa. She's taken my channeling workshop. She's doing phenomenal. She's doing great, progressing amazing. Just one of the most phenomenal channelers that I've ever taught. Really,
Good.
really talented. So yeah, she's super cool. It's a great question. My experience has been that when people get tattoos of different like light language symbols or other kind of symbols like Reiki symbols and things like that, that what happens is during that season of their life when they receive that, when they put that tattoo on themselves, yes, it does have an impact. So obviously use discretion whenever before deciding what tattoos to put on your body. Even if you do get them removed, they're still etched in there in your skin. So it really does matter. Or if it's words, careful about the words that you use is my suggestion. When it comes to symbols that you put on your body, my experience has been is with people that I know that have done this, is that whatever season of their life they're in, that helped them with that season of their life. But then after they outgrow it, it's still there, but it's not really doing anything anymore because it's already done what it needs to do. It's already like, so it's kind of like not all crystals, but a lot of times with crystals, my experience has been when I first started dabbling in crystals and stuff like that, I would notice that some at the very beginning for the first few months that I would hold the crystal and use the crystal, I'd be like, whoa, this is like so amazing. But then what happens is we become like basically attuned to that crystal in this example. And then what happens after that is the crystal doesn't really do much anymore. So it's kind of like it goes like this and then it plateaus. And so now that I have this
Yeah.
crystal with me and I can give it away to somebody else where it will help them through that phase and that, growth. And then it's not really necessary for me to keep it anymore because it's not really doing anything much for me anymore. I know as I'm saying this, I'm like feeling some of you are so attached to your crystals. You're like, no, I'm not giving away my crystals.
Like,
My
well, we
crystals
could
are
just
my
keep them
baby.
on display.
Yeah, and then you can do that as well. I have the attitude. I know it's Iona might not. She loves crystals. She has, if you look in the background, she has crystals everywhere. I love
Yeah.
it, and I love people who love crystals. I have a slightly different point of view. It's like for me, when the crystal's done as much as it can do with me, then I'm like, thank you very much, namaste, and I want to gift that crystal to someone else so it can bless someone else, or maybe buy them another one or a similar one if I know someone could use that particular style of crystal. So that, but I do like the display and all that as well. So but not all crystals are like that. So a lot of times crystals, they will help you, when you kind of go through a dip, they can help you get back up. And then you go through a dip, they can help you
Yeah.
get back up. So there are certain
Yeah.
crystals that you want to keep long term, but there are some crystals that they just won't ever do anything anymore for you. And they're basically like a nice ornament, or you can gift them to someone else. So the
Yeah.
similar
And
same concept happens. Go ahead, Diana. Yeah.
that's what I find with my crystals. Like I'll be out and I'll be looking around and stuff, and I'll find something that I'm drawn to, but I don't necessarily know why. And then I'll either go home and look it up and see why am I drawn to that? What is it used for, whatever. And then I'll either, put it away or I'll work with it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going through that. And if it's not something that I'm going through, then I put it up on a shelf and I let it display. And usually within 3 to 4 weeks, I'll have somebody come into my life that's like, this is what I'm going through. And I'm like, you know what? I just bought a crystal for that. Here you go. Yeah. So
Awesome.
I do a little bit of like giving and keeping and but
Yeah.
but they are tools. They're basically tools, like you were saying. They're tools and they're used for certain periods. And then after that, you just, like, are you like when you go into your next phase of your life, so you get this light language tattoo, right? And then you go on to and you use it for its purpose, but now it no longer serves you. So like, are you every phase of your life, are you going to go and get a new light language tattoo that means something else for that period of life? Like, I mean, it would
Yeah.
be definitely, if people are tattooists, but yeah, on the Senka one, so part of that, they were asking whether it has the potential to like lock someone in a certain energy signature.
Yeah. So let's get back to that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things. We'll go back to crystals for a second, just briefly I'll bridge it all together. So what you can do with certain crystals is you can take a crystal. Let's just say, for example, this isn't a crystal, but let's just hypothetically say this is a crystal. So certain crystals, you might receive them and get them from the crystal store, metaphysical store, or however you get them, order them or whatever. And so they might be at a certain level of potency, how potent they are, how much information they can give, how much effect they can have. And so what you can do is you can do two things, and I teach this in my later levels when I do teach crystal healing is, and I have to give attunements to my students to be able to do this, is two things that you can do with crystals is you can clear them, make sure they're nice and clean and clear. And then the second thing you can do is actually activate them. And then you'd be surprised, like a lot of crystals, it's kind of like a dimmer switch. So it might be in like a 2 out of 10 on the dimmer switch when you receive it. But then by clearing and activating your crystals, you can turn it up to like an 8 or a 9, and now all of a sudden it has a whole bunch more effect on you in a positive way, which is super cool and super awesome. So keep that in mind. That is that, and then all of a sudden now it's like, so the same similar thing with tattoos is you might have gotten a tattoo, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever it was. And right now at this moment in your life, it's no longer doing anything anymore because it's basically reached its peak to be able to do anything. And so what you can attempt to do is you can try to, for example, activate that symbol and see if it can be increased. Now I'm getting channeling right now live is that there's a lot of symbols that you put on you and that's that. They're not going to be able to do anymore. But sometimes you might be able to like actually activate them. And when I go like this, I'm not saying it's where that might work. I'm actually feeling into it now, like live channeling, is that what you might have to do is like actually feel the symbol in your body, like your torso, like your, and then totally like try to reintegrate it again. See if you can turn it up from maybe like a 6 out of 10, like the dimmer switch example, turn it up from a 6 out of 10, maybe up to an 8 or a 9 and see if you can increase it more.
Would getting touch-ups on it as well reactivate it?
Yeah, I'm getting a yes to that. Good question. Good point, Iona. Yeah, I'm getting a strong yes to that. Not in all cases. So here's the cool thing with channeling is you can check that. Like, let's say if you have 3 or 4 different symbols tattooed on you, you can check which ones, if there was a touch up, would it help? Would it increase it? Would it make it more active again? And what would that look like? Like, how would you have to touch it up and get the tattoo artist to go ahead and do that? Things like that. So really, really good point. Let's go back to the question though that Philippa asked, which is, will it lock me into that previous energy? I'm getting a strong no on that. So it's kind of like having, if you have like 5 crystals in your pocket, and the ones you've had, like the ones you've had from 5 years ago, maybe 2 of those 5 you've had from, like, say, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. They're not doing anything anymore, but they're not hindering you or locking you into that old energy. They've done what they can. They've peaked out, but the other 3 crystals are still active and increasing your vibration and your frequency. So yeah, it doesn't, I'm getting a strong no on that. It doesn't lock it in. But also keep in mind, Philippa, is the placebo effect. Like if we are thinking, oh, this old symbol is locking me into that old energy, then through our mind, we might actually be manifesting that and locking it in.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest, what I would suggest anyone that's watching this, if you've had put any symbols on your body and you feel like it's not really doing much anymore, what you can do is you can breathe into them, thank them for getting you to this period, be grateful for them, and thanking them that you're here so that you can move on to the next phase and chapters of your life, and just whatever you want to do. If you want to leave them or adapt them or work them into another different kind of tattoo or try to do tattoo removal, whatever, that's fine. Or none of the above. Just leave it alone and leave it the way it is. So really good question.
In my experience, everybody that I've ever known that has like gotten a always ends up getting more than just one tattoo. I don't think I know anybody who has one tattoo. So I was just, going back to what I was saying before, like, your next phase of your life, then you can get a new light language tattoo, right? And then it's kind of like your, a crystal collection, except you get your collection of tattoos that are honoring the periods of your life. Like, it actually would be a really cool thing, right, to have, for sure, if you're into tattoos and stuff, to have, Like, I mean, a lot of people do, memorial tattoos and things, or, yeah. So like, it's exactly the same thing,
Yeah.
except you're memorializing and appreciating and thanking and acknowledging the phases of your own life and your own, it's your body. So why not tell your story on your body, right? So
Yeah. Let's go on
that's
to
just
the
my
next
thought.
question. What's the
Yeah.
next one? So if anyone's watching this, two things. Welcome to the Ask Ken Show. Yay! Please feel free to say your name, where you're from. I'll give you a shout out. And also, if you have any questions about spirituality, about channeling, or just anything about spirituality or myself, if you have any questions about me personally, that's fine. I'm open to any and all questions. Feel free to go ahead and ask them. If you want a reading, this is not necessarily the platform, but you can ask questions about spirituality. I have other platforms that I do readings and stuff like that. But so go ahead and say hi and where you're from. That'd be great.
Yeah.
What's
So
the
we'll
next question?
continue on with the next question. Is your primary guide, spirit guide, always your primary guide, or can your guide come in?
Yeah. So there's two basic kinds of spirit guides. There's your primary spirit guide. That's your main one that works with you most of the time. And then on the peripheral, on the edges, is your secondary spirit guides. And your secondary spirit guides, they're active, just not quite as active as your primary spirit guide. So the question is, can my primary spirit guide change? So there's a lot of different examples here, and the answer is yes, it can. What can happen is you can have a primary spirit guide and let's say, again, how many spirit guides most people have? 3 to 5. So let's say in this example, somebody has 4 spirit guides, 1 primary and 3 secondaries. So the primary one, which is in the center, and then the 3 secondaries on the peripheral, on the edges, that come in and help and support. Those are the secondary spirit guides. What can happen is you can have a secondary spirit guide and a primary spirit guide change during different seasons of your life, stuff like that. I remember there's this one time when I was working with somebody's spirit guides, and I'm like, okay, which one of you is the primary spirit guide? And this one's like, I am. And then this one's like, I am. I'm like, no, I am. I'm like, what? Wait. What's going on here? Why are you all saying I am? So remember that spirit guides are people like you and I, so they can be kind of goofy and silly sometimes, they're souls, right? And so I'm like, well, how can all of you be spirit guide, like the primary spirit guide? And then they're like, well, when it comes to finances and business and career, I'm the primary guide. When it comes to relationships, I'm the primary guide. When it comes to health and all that, I'm the primary guide. I'm like, no, don't be silly. You guys know what I'm talking about. And they're like, okay, fine. So it's like, okay, that one's the primary spirit guide. But so in some sense, they weren't, they were correct. They were all primary guides in that certain area of their life, in that person's certain area of their life. But what I mean is like, who's the one that works with them most of the time? That's your primary spirit guide. So is your primary spirit guide always your primary guide? The answer is no. So there's a couple of things that are really important here is you can have a spirit guide that's with you for your entire life, or you can have spirit guides that come and go during different seasons of your life. It doesn't mean you're going to guaranteed have a spirit guide for your whole entire, like one particular spirit guide your entire life. So that's really important to know, because sometimes people, there's all these theories out there when it's like, everybody has one spirit guide that they're born with, or one angel, or one this or one that. And I'm like, yeah, that hasn't really been my experience. It is possible though. It's very unlikely though that the spirit guides that you had when you were a child in elementary school are the same spirit guides that you have now. Why? Because they change during different seasons of your life. And when we talk about seasons or chapters of your life, we're not talking about every week or anything. We're talking like a major shift. You might get one who steps back, another one who steps forward. Also, the amount that you have can change. So let's go to that example is you might have a primary guide and a secondary guide, but you enter a new season of your life, a new spirit guide comes in, you might go from 4 spirit guides to 5 spirit guides. Or a new season of your life comes in, you might have 2 spirit guides that step back, and instead of having 4, now you have 3, the new one and the original 2 that you had before. Or what might happen is you might get a new chapter season of your life, a new spirit guide comes in, you might get, that one might become a primary, so you have still your main primary spirit guide. So that one might become a secondary spirit guide, so you have still your main primary guide, and then that one goes into becoming your secondary spirit guide. or you might have that new guide come in, they might be a new primary, and then your primary might step back to a secondary, or your primary might step back totally and not be your spirit guide anymore. The biggest thing that I want people to know is that when you do get a new spirit guide, you celebrate that. You get to know who this guide is, because that you're entering a new chapter, new season of your life. So if there's one takeaway from all this, so I can feel some of you asking, well, how do I know my spirit guides? And that's always the biggest question. That's why I do the training that I do at channelinginc.com. So you can see that's channeling level 1. I go through that in great depths, great detail to help you start the journey of getting to know your spirit guide team, which is the essential, most important thing about channeling is always know who your spirit guide team is, because they're here to help and support you through your evolution. But they'll also help to make sure that you're only channeling things that are good for you and of the light. You can check with them, should I channel this? Should I channel that? And your spirit guide team will let you know. So what I encourage people to do, if you're watching this, is to try to find somewhere quiet to go and sit and ask one of your spirit guides to come in and try to get to know who your spirit guide team is. Of course, during my mentorship programs and my online channeling workshops, that's why I purposely take you through these examples of getting to know your spirit guide team, so that when you are on your own, you already have some of the fundamental channeling skills that you've been taught, which are super important. It is possible to try to figure it out on your own. You're more than welcome to, and I recommend and encourage my students to please do some channeling on your own time. And the most important thing is consistency. Like, the reason why I'm as good as I am is because I just practiced lots in my early days, my early years, on my own time. I'd be working a full-time day job. I'd be raising my daughter as a full-time single father and building my spiritual business. And in between all of that, I'd still be practicing my own channeling skills to increase my channeling skills. So you're more than welcome to do that. On Instagram, we have Robin Sowers from Alberta. She's saying hi. Hi, Ken. So hi. Hi, Robin. Thank you for saying hi. If any of you are watching, just feel free to give a shout out, say hi and hello in the chat, and I will give you I will say hello to you and also a shout out. And if you have any questions about spirituality, feel free to ask.
Yeah. And I highly recommend at least his level 1. If you're not into moving forward and working with other people and other people's spirit guides and, all that, readings and psychic abilities and all of that channeling, I do recommend at least taking his level 1, because he breaks it down. He breaks it down and makes it so easy, step by step, for you to learn and feel each and every single one. As well as your chakras, your higher self, your soul. He connects you with everything that is important and that you need to know in order to know exactly moving forward who to channel, that it's safe, so you can feel comfortable and not be afraid of bringing in something that you shouldn't be bringing in. Because that was my big thing when I first started, because I contemplated for years on wanting to, I want to do psychic readings and stuff. But what if I bring in something that I don't know, or, that's bad and stuff. And then, and then I found out about Ken was doing these courses, and I took his level 1, and I absolutely loved it. Broke it down, made me feel like, yes, I can actually do this, and I know what I'm doing, and it's safe. And I know the ABCs of it. So highly recommend his level 1s.
Awesome.
For anybody. So we will go on to the next question. When we die or cross over, will we be with our pets who we've lost or who've passed?
Yeah, so good question. So we have our animals, pets throughout our lifetime, and in general, humans tend to outlive animals or pets. So we might have several pets that we've had over our human life. And so the answer is yes. There's 3 different realms. There's the astral realm, there's the in-between realm, and then there's the animal spirit realm. And so we're not going to talk about the in-between realm, but these 2 realms are where when humans die and they cross over, they go to the astral realm, which is kind of like heaven, to be with your soul family, stuff like that. When animals die and they cross over, they go to their own realm. It's called the animal spirit realm, and that's where your totem animals reside, and also your pets and other animals. That's where they go when they cross, and when they die and they cross over, they go to the animal spirit realm. So when we die and cross over, we're in the astral realm. However, souls in the astral realm can communicate with souls in the animal spirit realm, and souls in the animal spirit realm can communicate with souls in the astral realm, just like we can here on Earth. What's really, really important to know, this goes for anything to do with channeling, is a soul is a soul is a soul is a soul. So whether a soul is an ascended master, or a random soul, or a loved one, or a soul family member, and so on, or a spirit guide, there's still a soul. And channeling a soul is the same thing. Channeling also souls that are incarnated compared to ones that are not incarnated, the process is the same. It's the same thing. It's the same process. It's a soul is a soul is a soul, whether they're incarnated or not. Whether they're one of those different kinds of souls I just mentioned. And same thing with animal souls. So when I teach my animal healing and communication workshop, which is kind of like my level 4 workshop, I tell my students this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach you, we're going to focus on animals and pets this weekend. However, just know that everything I'm teaching you can also apply to humans, because the processes are the same. So when I take them through like really, really cool and advanced healing modalities, like how to do angel healing, how to do dragon healing, how to do crystal healing, all that cool stuff, I say to them, I'm like, okay, now you know how to do this for pets. We're going to practice on pets, and we do practice on pets, but now you can take the same modalities and use it for humans, because it's the same, which is super exciting. So just like we as incarnated humans can channel pets that are alive, we can also channel pets that are deceased. We can also channel humans that are alive. We can also channel humans that are deceased or on the other side. So same thing when we're in spirit form, when we die and we cross over, will we be reunited with our pets? The answer is yes. Why? Because just like when we're in human form, incarnated form, we can channel our pets, whether they're alive or deceased, because again, a soul is a soul. And then when we go into spirit form, when we go back to the astral realm to be with our soul family, we're in spirit form then, and then we can also channel and connect with psychically, we can connect with our pets and our loved ones and so on. So good question.
Yeah, very good question. And just I'm gonna add on a quick question, I guess, to it. So your pets, right? Like, can you have the same soul animal? Because we're talking they've passed, they're now a soul animal and stuff. So like, will those soul animals come back to us in other lives, like past lives? Like, have we had the same animal throughout?
Yeah, okay, so we're talking about totem animals or animal spirit guides. Good question. Okay, so I've had this
Well,
question a
no,
few
just
times.
okay. So as an example, right? I have one of my cats, right? So say
Oh,
they
okay.
passed on, or like, were they one of my, like, were they like a cat in a previous life of mine, is basically what I'm.
Yeah, okay. I'll answer that question in a bit, but I think some people might find this question. I'll do both questions. That's a really two good questions.
Okay.
One is, so totem animals.
Mm-hmm.
I've had students ask me in the past if I've had a totem animal in a previous time in my life, let's say as a child, or maybe like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and then that totem animal is no longer my totem animal anymore. Can they come back and be my totem animal again? The answer is yes, but most likely not. It's possible. They might pop in from time to time to help and assist. Same thing with spirit guides. Like, for example, my dad was my spirit guide for many years, and like a long time, like over 10 years in my first spiritual awakening. He just showed up now. But he comes in from time to time to say hello now, but he's no longer a spirit guide. Can he be a spirit guide again in the future? Possibly, but most likely not. So that's an interesting thing to note. He's joking with me. He's like, I'm definitely not going to. He's just
Yeah,
teasing me.
yeah.
He's having fun. Anyways, I feel really honored every time he comes in now because he doesn't come in as often because he's not a spirit guide. It's not bad or wrong.
Mhm.
And that's another important thing is I've had some of my
Oh, okay. I think we may have lost his, ran into
comes in,
problems
but
because
not
he's,
necessarily like
oh, there you
not
are.
necessarily like a spirit guide. So yeah. So because of that, what can happen is they can think that people try to force it to be someone they're not. So just remember what I said earlier is that most people have 3 to 5 spirit guides, and most people's spirit
Mhm.
guides are people you've known from past lifetimes, not necessarily from this lifetime. And a loved one isn't necessarily a spirit guide, but it can be. An ancestor can be a spirit guide, but not necessarily. Again, most people's spirit guides are people you've known from past lifetimes. So try not to force it to be someone it's not. Just allow it to be what it is. Oh, are you my spirit guide? Yes or no? And if it's not, be like, okay, thank you. I appreciate you. They can still come in. They can still say hi. They can still hang out around you, but they're most likely like a loved one status. And same thing with your pets, deceased pets that have lived before, is they can still come in from time to time and just say hello and be with you, and which is really beautiful. Especially after they first die and they cross over, they know that you're in a lot of pain, maybe struggling from the loss of them, so they'll come in quite often just to console you and let them know that
Mhm.
you're here, which is really beautiful work. And for those of my students, if you want to do um, if you want to do any readings for people on animals, please do. It's really beautiful work. It's kind of like similar to mediumship, where you're helping people channel their loved ones, which are humans who've crossed over. Doing the
Mhm.
work of channeling people's deceased pets is just as valuable and just as important and beautiful work as well. It really helps people go through the grieving process, and I just love it. I think it's really, really, really important. When it comes to uh, pets, the question is, can I have a previous pet from a previous lifetime that has reincarnated and we're back together again? The answer is yes. And Kevin, who just showed up, who's saying hi. Hi, Kevin. One of
Hi,
his
Kevin.
pets actually has done this. He's had past lives with the pet that he has currently in this lifetime, which is really cool and really beautiful. And it's not all the time though. So one thing that's really important is we don't want to try to force it to be. I think me and this pet have had past lifetimes because we have such an amazing bond. You can have an amazing bond in this lifetime with your pet, and this is your first lifetime together. So again, with channeling, we don't make this stuff up. We actually check and
Mhm.
verify all this, which is really beautiful. But in some cases, it's like, yeah, that is why you have such an amazing bond, because you have had past lives together, and it's super cool. So another thing that can happen is you may have had a pet in a like as a child or when you were younger in your younger years, and then that pet has died and crossed over, and then they've reincarnated, and then you've acquired them as a pet again in this same lifetime, which is really beautiful.
That was
And
actually going
there's
to be
movies
my
about that.
another question that I was going to add on. So, yeah.
Yeah. Again, we don't make it up though. I've also had people be like, "Oh, my niece died, and now we've had a child, and we feel that
Yep.
it's the same person, the same soul." And I'm checking. I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not." But the people really want it to be. So as a
Yeah.
channeler, as a practitioner, I'm always careful about what I say and how I say it, whether I agree with someone or disagree with them. There's a whole bunch of ethics that I teach starting in channeling level 2 around what
Mhm.
readings to give people, what messages to give people, how to say it if you are going to say it, what to say, what not to say. There's a whole bunch of ethics around that. But again, the person I'm thinking of in this example was really, really, really wanting it to be who they wanted it to be. But I was kept checking and checking. I'm like, no, the baby that you've had is a different soul than your niece who died with your sister. It's not the same soul.
Mhm.
It's a different soul in that case. But same thing can happen too with like spirit guides. So, for example, um, you can have a spirit guide that has like really cool energy, like as a female energy, and you're like, oh my God, I have a spirit guide. My spirit guide's Mother Mary, and all that. Mother Mary. And they're like determined that it's Mother Mary. And again, I check, and it could be, it's possible, But oftentimes what it is, it's a soul that has a similar energy signature as Mother Mary, similar
Yeah.
personality traits as Mother Mary. So I can understand why they get it mixed up. It's not bad or wrong.
Mhm.
I had, I've actually had several people think that their spirit guides are Mother Mary, and I check. I'm like, no, very similar attributes, but different soul, different soul.
Right. It's just like, with us, like as humans, when we're here on Earth and stuff, like, you get along with more people because you have similar personalities, right? So,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, the same kind of idea. Yeah. All right. So let's go on to the next question. I think Kevin has a question. He's asking if you had a chance to look at the video he sent you. But can fairies be caught on camera?
The answer is yes. Yes. Oftentimes fairies will come in like orbs on camera. You'll see like little orbs kind of flying around. When I psychically tune into fairies, and my students do, I teach this in channeling level 3 when I teach how to channel sprites, fairies, dragons, crystal divas, sprites, things like that.
Mhm.
For the most part, fairies are like have little wings and they flutter around. There's a really good movie that one of my students told me about. It's called A Fairy's Tale. A Fairy's Tale,
Okay.
like fairies. And
Mhm.
tale is Tale, like a story about fairies. And it's
Yeah.
so accurate. Like that movie is like, when I was just watching it, I'm just like how crazy cool is that? So yeah, you
I'll
can
have to
actually
look that up.
capture. One thing about cameras to just be cautious about, this goes for anyone, not just Kevin, but just anyone in general, is that sometimes people like take a picture and they'll go, "Oh my God, there's an orb and there's this and there's that, and there's this halo, there's this and that, or there's this streak coming through the camera," and is with I've actually played with this. Is I'm looking through my, like when I turn on my camera on my phone and I'm looking through it and I'm like, and I go like this, I'm like, oh wow, I see like this cool orb, or I see this like cool like streak coming through, and then I
Mhm.
cover the sun, and then I go, oh, it went away, and then I take my hand away, and then I'm like, oh, it's back again. Oh, it's so we have to be careful that it's not hitting the lens and then creating an effect where it might seem like it's something spiritual when it's really not. So
Mhm.
that's the only
Mhm.
thing to be cautious about when it comes to capturing things on camera. But what you can do is if you can psychically check to see if what you have captured on camera, whether it's with your own camera or someone else's camera, is an actual spiritual apparition, or if it's not, if it's just an anomaly, or like some sort of physical thing to do with your mechanical camera and stuff like that. So not everything caught on camera is spiritual. That might look like it is.
Mhm.
It can be, but not necessarily. So that's just a little caution. But it's, yeah, there's technology out there now that is much more highly sensitive, that is specially designed to capture like spirits, for example. You
Yeah.
might have seen them on ghost hunter shows. There's other
EMFs.
technologies out there that can capture, yeah, like EMFs, that can capture your um, like Kirlian technology is out there now, or photography.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of other technologies out there that are really, really cool. Some of them could capture like your chakras and the state of your chakras.
Yeah.
I've I had this really cool, like, so when it comes to aura photography, you have
Yeah.
to use the really, really expensive
Yeah.
equipment because the cheap ones don't work as well. And I had this one client where at a spirit expo, she didn't tell me about this, but she came to me and did some chakra and some energy healing on her. And then she came back like 10 minutes later and she showed a before and after picture. And it was like night and day.
Cool.
Even the person who owns the camera was like, what? Like, who is this healer? Like, this is crazy. And it's really like, so it's,
Yeah.
I love how technology is finally catching up with spirituality,
Yeah.
which is super cool. And there's all these like technologies out there now that can finally start to capture some of the spiritual stuff on camera. And yeah, like getting healing done, if the healer is really good and competent, you will not only notice the effect, but and have real world effects in your life, but you can actually now capture it with certain technologies out there, which is super cool.
Very cool. Very cool. So Jennifer has popped on, Jennifer Ann Harrington, and she was just asking, where can we catch that? Where can we watch that movie? Do you know?
Yeah, so a fairy's tale. So fairies, and then again,
Yeah.
Tale, tale, like a fairy's tale. I rented it from the library. Um, I just looked it up in the library system and rented it from there. Um, yeah, I rented the actual DVD, played it on my DVD player. So other than that, I'm not sure how else because I've been like
Simple
that. That was
Google
quite
will
a few years
probably tell
ago.
you.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, back where I was living, we had free access to the library, so there was no library fees, and I just went down physically to the library, picked up the DVD, and then played it. It was awesome. It was like I recommend it. It's so amazing. It's such an amazing movie. Another good movie that I recommend is the one with Robin
Fern
Williams,
Gully.
and I'm trying to
Fern Gully.
say it again.
Fern Gully. It's one of my favorites.
Um, It's a one about the other side. I'd have to look it up, but what's the, here, just give me 2 seconds here.
That's not the one where
I
he's the
can find
bat.
it real quick. No.
That one's
What
about
dreams
fairies.
may come?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
What, yeah, what dreams may come. I stumbled across that when I was listening to an audiobook on Conversations with God
Mhm.
with Neil Donald Walsh. I was listening to an audiobook of his in the car, and then they talked about this, like, what dreams may come. And I was like, what? I'm like, what is this movie? So I watched it, and I was like, this is like the craziest, coolest movie ever. It's the best depiction of any movie I've ever watched on the astral realm, and it's like so accurate about describing the astral realm. Another really fun movie too. It's called Soul,
Yeah,
Soul,
Jennifer just mentioned
Soul,
Soul.
like so, yes, and that's a Disney movie.
Yeah.
I've watched that probably about 4 or 5 times, 6 times. Like it's very, very accurate. It's just a fun kids movie, but it's so accurate around.
Yeah.
And then Ghost is really beautiful. The reason why I like Ghost is because if you haven't watched it with Patrick Swayze, it's really cool because it talks about how, like, when Patrick Swayze dies, he doesn't even realize he's dead at first. So he's like trying to get people's attention, and they're
Yeah.
just walking by him, and he doesn't even know. And then later on in the movie, he's trying to move something in the physical world, but he's trying and trying and trying and trying, but he can't seem to do it.
Mhm.
And it's not till later in the movie when he gets like super emotionally charged around something, and then he moves that physical object. I think it was like a pencil or a penny or a dime or something like that, like a coin. Can't remember what it was, but
It was a
he gets
penny.
super emotionally charged. And then what's that?
It was a penny.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
and then
a
he moves it,
symbolic
and then the
penny for the
person.
two of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the person in the physical realm or the physical plane saw that, and they're, what the heck was that? So that's where, oh, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Our spirit guides, they're always around us, and they've been with you your entire lifetime, but a lot of times we're just not aware of it. And you have to put yourself in the position of a spirit guide. Spirit guides, they're people like you and I, non-physical form, but it takes a lot of training to be a spirit guide. Like, when they're in the astral realm, they work with ascended masters who teach them and mentor them on how to be spirit guides. So you've had spirit guides all your life, and a lot of times they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to get messages through to you. They might be saying like do this, do this, do this, and you just totally aren't aware of it, so you don't end up doing it, and then you miss that opportunity. Or they might be telling you like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, Ken, don't do this, don't do this, but you do it anyways, and then it turns out horribly. We've all done that. We've all had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal, and what I teach my students to do, is try to work with your spirit guides, collaborate with them. I call it bridging the gap. Then the reason why I created this was because back in my early days, I would just be sitting there and I'd just be like, okay, guys, you tell me whatever. You just sit, I'm just going to sit here and you do all the work. You do it all. And then I realized after many years of this, I'm like, oh, maybe it's kind of tough to be a spirit guide. Maybe it's harder than I think or realize. And then so I'm like, well, why don't I try to meet them part of the way and make it easier for them? Why don't I try to help them out? And so once I started doing that, then my connection with them really increased because it's making their job easier. And that was really a cool aha moment that I had around that. So please, 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 when you're working with your spirit guides, try to actually collaborate with them, try to make it easier for them, try to meet them part of the way. to allow the messages to come in easier and more clear. So that's good. I love this stuff. Oh my goodness. If you're watching right now, feel free to say your name, where you're from. I'll give you a shout out. If you have any questions about spirituality, I will live channel the answers here online. Feel free to check out my website, channelinginc.com. Let's see if we can get a couple more questions in, Iona.
Yeah, let's see if we can. So, next question is, with my soul contracts, will certain things happen in my life anyway?
Yeah, okay, that's a really good question. So now we're getting partially into Akashic Records and also into your soul's blueprint. So what we have is, before we incarnate, some of it can come from past lives as well, is we can have contracts, deals, and agreements, things that we want to achieve and we want to try to fulfill in this lifetime. So sometimes people, let's say, take relationships, for example, because this is a big one that's very common with my students, is that oftentimes they'll be like, oh, I was meant to go through that relationship with that person because we have a certain contract we needed to fulfill. And I'm like, yeah, not necessarily. Like, that's one way to do it, but there's other ways to go about doing it. Sometimes those relationships aren't necessarily healthy and don't turn out good for either party, either person. I've been through a few of those in my life, but also a lot of my students have as well. And so what we can do is, through healing and clearing, we can actually clear some of these contracts and deals and stuff like that. So we don't necessarily have to go through the pain and the suffering and all the other stuff that can come along with some of these. But also keep in mind that some of these can actually be really healthy for us and help us with our soul's evolution. So it's not like it's always bad or wrong. And so let me give two examples of this, where before you incarnate, you work with ascended masters in the astral realm, in your soul family, and they help you develop what I call a blueprint for when you incarnate, what you want to achieve and what you want to grow and what you want to work through, what you want to learn and all that other stuff. There's no guarantees that this is going to happen. So what I do is, I don't call it a blueprint, I call it a rough blueprint. And the reason why I call it a rough blueprint is, think of it like a circuit board, and you have different traces that go down the board. Well, something might happen in your life that, because we have this amazing, beautiful thing called free will, but not only do you have free will, but other people have free will. So other people can use and exercise that free will to change your trajectory in a positive way, or change your trajectory in the opposite way. And you might be a child, for example, you might be like 7 years old, and somebody does something where it changes your trajectory, and again, not necessarily in a good way. And so then now all of a sudden you're like that circuit board, you're going down a different trace, a different path. And so that's why I call it a rough blueprint of where your life might go. And so there's no guarantees that you're going to fulfill all the contracts that you want to try to achieve in this lifetime. You might not fulfill them all. You might fulfill some of them or none of them, and that's okay. Then you may incarnate again. And by the way, a little disclaimer here: even if you fulfill all the contracts that you wanted to in this lifetime, it doesn't mean you're not going to incarnate again. Most likely, you will reincarnate. So a lot of times, I remember my daughter called me up like about a year and a half ago, and she's like, Dad, what do I have to do so I don't have to reincarnate again? And I'm just like, oh, that's just so sweet. I'm like, well, first of all, chances are, no matter what you do or don't do, you'll most likely reincarnate again. I have a lot of people that they're like, especially, I don't really bring this up until my later levels. And the reason why is because most people are still pretty tender and all that stuff. But then at later levels, they know how to channel, they know how to check this stuff. And I say, how many times have you had it and said, where I'm never going to incarnate again? This is my last life. This is my last life. Yet here you are again in this lifetime. You probably said that many lifetimes before, and yet here you are again, and you probably will again. So just the way I try to look at it as more of an empowering way. Like, how can chances are I'm going to reincarnate again, whether I want to or not. I probably will. Like in my human form, I might be like, no, I don't want to. But in a soul form, when I get back to the astral realm, I'll be like, no, I want to incarnate again. Why do souls in the astral realm want to incarnate? Because that's where they can maximize the most evolution as a soul. When you're in spirit form, you don't have the capacity to evolve as much as you could as when you're incarnated in 3D form. And that's why souls are lined up by the masses right now, waiting and trying to get incarnated so that they can grow and evolve as a soul. So then what happens is what I want to do in this lifetime is I want to maximize and try to grow and evolve as much as I can in this lifetime. Why? Because obviously it feels good and right in this lifetime, but also because in the next lifetime, not if I reincarnate again, but most likely when I do, then hopefully I'm a little bit more advanced, a little bit more evolved as a soul, and I can continue on that journey. Hopefully, again, there's no guarantees because who knows what that next lifetime might entail. It might go up, might go down, might go all sorts of different directions because of free will and all that other stuff. But what I'm very intentional about is doing as much healing and clearing as I can to get rid of all that old stuff, not just from this lifetime, but also from previous lifetimes. So that's not carried forward into my next lifetimes. And then another thing that I'm also very intentional about is doing having spiritual upgrades and spiritual activations and attunements and enhancements. Why? Because a lot my experience has been that that's carried forward from people's previous lifetimes into their next lifetimes. So that's also another reason why I want to do spiritual upgrades along the way in this lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're constantly learning, right? And that's not, and it's, you know, we always say here on Earth as humans that we're constantly learning, but in reality, it's our soul that is constantly learning. It's not just us here, but it's our soul that is constantly learning. So yes, it'll continue to learn even beyond our lifetime here, this time.
Yeah. I love
so
it.
Beautiful.
With that, thank you for sharing, Iona. Thank you for hosting me. And this is the Ask Ken Show. If you want to learn more about any of my channeling workshops, I usually do many sessions, one-on-one sessions throughout the day. I also do, many events a month, over 10 events a month. Feel free to check out anything that you might feel called to. I have Ascension group healing. I have intro classes, all sorts of other different workshops and trainings. You can find it all on my website, channelinginc.com. Have a wonderful day, everyone. See you all soon.
Have a great evening.
Later. Love you all.
Take care. Till next month.